Entrepreneurship can be really hard, and when you're doing it by yourself, trying to navigate the terrain, it can almost be impossible. That's why we created the Entrepreneur Circle. Every episode, you're going to hear from incredible entrepreneurs who are in the same trenches that you are in. And we're going to talk through what's working, what's not working, whether it be in marketing, finance, or anything in between. We're here to talk business and figure out how each of us can rise together. So welcome to the circle. Let's dig in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Entrepreneur Circle podcast. I'm Paresa Noble, and I am here today with an absolute legend. Today's guest has been an entrepreneur for years. Now he is in the supplement industry, running his business online, working completely remote, traveling the world. And he's not only running his own businesses, he's consulting businesses to go from medium-sized to large, 7, 8-figure businesses that are really making an impact in the world. So welcome, James Klein. I'm so excited to have you on.
It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. I know that there is a lot that we could dig into. And I think when I think about where to start, I would love for you to kind of speak to our audience about how it was when you started your businesses, the whole journey of learning something new, learning a new industry, learning how to work on your business rather than in the business. That is a big transition for many of us entrepreneurs. And I think that would be a great place to kick off this conversation.
It was a total haphazard event that sort of got me into the supplement business. I was running an IT business that did software development primarily for law firms. And I had a friend who was a world-class athlete who had the idea to start a supplement business. And he wanted me to help advise along the process and asked me to put a little bit of money into the business to help get it off the ground. So I wrote a very small check in the beginning. I think it was $12,500 or something. And I'm the type of person that just doesn't put money into something. I need to understand all the moving pieces and really understand the opportunity. So once I committed to make the investment, I spent a lot of free time really digging into the supplement world, going to retail stores, going to events, and really understanding where the fish were swimming, for lack of a better term. Because it's great to launch a product, but if you launch a product that nobody wants, chances are you're not going to succeed. And as the business started progressing a little bit, I took a real liking to the supplement space.
If we could go back to what you just said about understanding where the fish are swimming, that is the number one piece that helped me dial in on my business. And it sounds like it was what really set the tone for yours as well.
The advantage in today's world is that you can accomplish a lot just with Google and AI, certainly, and understand what's going on. We entered the supplement business in 2001. So we certainly had the internet, but most consumers were still buying in retail stores, the GNCs and vitamin shops of the world, or they were buying protein powders or pre-workouts at their gym. So it required us to talk to a lot of store owners and really dig into the market that way. The theory was build a product and then find the customers for it. In today's world, it's just the opposite. Find a market and then build the product that serves that market. That has been the biggest change I've seen, certainly in the last 20 or 25 years. In today's world, you can literally in a week have a Shopify store live with a product to sell. 25 years ago, that was not the case. So there are massive advantages in today's world. We were talking about Mr. Beast, and literally he started a YouTube channel. And look what he's built it into. It's absolutely amazing. I have such respect for the people like that. The Kardashians couldn't have done 25 years ago what they've done today. It's just a very different world, and there's massive opportunity there.
Absolutely. It's interesting you bring up Mr. Beast because I think he recently put out a PDF talking about his whole formula on how to create a viral YouTube video. And he's talking about the virility of each video and how he locked himself in his room for like 5 years before he even started. And he did research and he looked at all of the videos on YouTube that were going viral and found the common denominators and the different characteristics that would add up to the quote virility of that video. And then he went and started creating his own content. Obviously, entrepreneurship is not just a, willy-nilly decision. It's filled with risk. You got to kind of think about it a little bit. But I think a lot of times entrepreneurs can get into business, and as it should be, you're kind of figuring it out as you go. What would you say to the entrepreneur that has figured out most of it, but they're really trying to find that groove? What is the catalyst that kickstarts things into momentum for people?
So the first thing I'll say about that is there's no such thing as a perfect product. So if you're waiting for your business to have the perfect product or service, you're never going to launch your business because you're always learning and iterating and improving. So I'm a big believer in launching a minimum viable product or service. Don't just launch something that nobody wants, but if you've identified an area where you can help people with a product or a service, good enough in the short term is fine. As business owners, sometimes we think we know exactly what the market needs, but we're negotiating with ourselves. We're telling ourselves what we think the market needs. Ultimately, the market will tell us what it is. So you launch something and then you keep iterating and improving as you go along.
I think that's the biggest thing that we should highlight from this is it's all about iterations. When I was first starting off in this, our friend Tony Grubmeyer, he told me version done is better than version none. Just put something out, put something out, see how it does, test it, and then create different variations of it.
Sure. Look at those Stanley mugs that everybody is buying now.
Yep.
The mugs were a minuscule part of the overall Stanley hardware business. And all of a sudden, because of the internet and because a few posts went viral, look at what they've accomplished. It's absolutely amazing. That wouldn't have been possible 25 years ago.
Absolutely. And to dig into their marketing aspect, the Stanley Cup used to be marketed to construction workers because it was so durable and resilient. And now it's to like suburban moms. I got a Stanley Cup.
Right. And I'm sure every day when you do carpool, you have the Stanley Cup sitting in the cup holder.
I sure do. I love my Stanley Cup. But it's interesting, right? You don't know. And that's even going back to understanding where the fish are swimming. It can be different pools of fish, different types of fish, different types of audiences that will like your product. But if you never open that door and give yourself a chance to walk through it, then how will you know?
Exactly. If you don't take the chance, then you're always going to be stuck in neutral and wondering what if and what should I do. So sometimes you just have to go for it. Give yourself the best chance at success, certainly. But sometimes you just have to show up and try to accomplish something. And then it's all about your numbers. He who doesn't understand his data in today's world is destined to fail. So there's so much data available to us now. You launch a podcast. How many downloads were there? How many listens? What's the average listen time, etc.? And if you see that the average listen time on a podcast is only a minute, chances are the intro to your podcast isn't very good. So you have to know your data regardless of whether you're selling a service or a product. Data should drive all the decisions.
Amen. I can't agree more. That is a pivotal piece of our strategy when we work with clients is look at the data and follow the data. That's what tells us what to post about, what to talk about, write the next blog about. It's all there for us. I think the key is understanding it. And now with AI, it's even easier to understand it because AI will summarize everything for you if you have the right platform. When I look at where to go to figure out those gaps in the market, no matter what your vertical in, there are gaps in your industry, right? It's our job as entrepreneurs to fill that gap. We solve problems. So how do you find the gaps that would be lucrative and worth pursuing? A few platforms that I like, I really look at SEO as a big teller because you see what people are searching. You see what the inquiries are on Google as it relates to your industry. The one we use is called Moz, M-O-Z, and we can link that in the show notes here. But I think that's one one place to start. There's a lot of SEO softwares out there, and these are platforms that not only can help you build your SEO, but it really dig into the data of what your competitors are talking about, what they're doing, what people are searching, what are the top searches in your industry. Because when you can understand that, it can really help you dial in on your marketing message. I think that's one of the places I would start, James. And just maybe if you have any tips for people who are listening for their businesses as well, what are some data points that they should pour into or softwares that you would recommend for them to look at to help with this piece?
Sure. So if you have a website for your business, I like using a heat mapping tool, whether it's Microsoft Clarity or Lucky Orange or any of them. There are a million different tools out there. And basically, you install 3 or 4 lines of code on your website, and it allows you to see where people scroll on your pages, where they click, where they leave your page. They can also even record people's sessions so that you can play back and see, what did somebody do on my website? They scrolled down to a certain point, then they went back up, then they ended their session. So it allows us to figure out where we're losing people in the journey and then hone in on that specific area. What's wrong with the copy on the website, or what's wrong with the image or the messaging that is causing people to leave instead of continue scrolling down. So that's something for anything that's web-based, I think is super important. Knowing SEO stats, as you said, tremendously important. We were talking about a friend of mine who in his early 20s identified that there was an opening in the market for weighted blankets. And he and his business partner were just doing tons of Google searches, trying to identify an area that was underserved. And in the space of 4 years, they grew that business from nothing and ended up selling it for almost $50 million. It's a pretty cool story. So, right place, right time, but they put in all the hard work to allow them to be in the right place at the right time.
Hmm. I'm seeing a trend in our conversation because it's, your friend who just did the weighted blanket sale, Mr. Beast. Like, there's so much that goes into the pre-work of launching. And then when you launch, you have all the data there to back why you're doing it. And then the numbers work. I think so many times we throw spaghetti at the wall and just, see what sticks. And yeah, you could do that. And that there's data there too, right? But there's something to be said about being very intentional and meticulous about what you are producing, creating as an entrepreneur from the get-go.
Absolutely. And, a perfect example is sometimes you have a web page and it's not converting the way you want. So you'll go in and make several changes at once. The problem with that is, let's say the website starts converting. Because you changed 5 variables, you don't know which one it is that actually moved the needle in a positive way. So generally, the way to approach it is to make one change at a time so that you can really see what improved your conversion rate or the number of clicks or whatever it happens to be. But if you're changing multiple things at the same time, you have no way of noting which one was actually beneficial for your page.
I love that the conversation's landed here because I think any business, their digital presence is everything. This all applies no matter where you are.
Exactly. Every business in many ways is the same, regardless if you're running a med spa or selling a physical product or a service. Like, the principles are the same. You have to have something that the market wants. If you don't, then you're not going to succeed. And then it's really just about improvement and constantly evolving, because nothing is static in today's world. You look at how much AI has advanced in the last 2 years since ChatGPT first came out. The first version compared to what you can do today is not incrementally different, it's exponentially different. There's nothing that's static in today's world.
Yeah, and if you stay static, it'll be a taxi Uber situation where
Yes,
you might get just completely canceled out if you're not evolving, especially with how quickly technology is evolving, to your point.
exactly.
You're either growing or dying, right?
100%.
Okay, this is a good segue because I wanted to talk to you also about mindset that comes with this. I just mentioned that if you're not growing, you're dying, and that's applicable to your business and just the ever evolving landscape of technology and how we have to keep creating iterations to grow our business. But the same is true for ourselves and our minds. I mean, entrepreneurship, it's a lonely journey, it's a high pressure journey. There's a lot that comes with it, both great and hard. So when it comes down to growing personally and growing your mindset and growing your belief level, how big of a piece do you think that plays into the grand scheme of somebody's success?
There are two things that I've identified in some of the people who come to me for consulting work. And both of them can be deadly for a business, but they're opposite ends of an extreme. So one is the entrepreneur who suffers from shiny object syndrome and literally every day has a new idea and they never implement anything because they're always waiting for the next shiny object. Just as bad are people who suffer from paralysis from analysis. So they're looking for something to reveal itself to them and they never make a decision because they're still waiting for one more data point or whatever it is. In my opinion, 95% plus of people who suffer from one or other affliction are destined to not be good entrepreneurs. And what I really find separates the exceptional entrepreneurs from the mediocre ones is the ability, number one, to fail quickly, but also to implement quickly. So as we talked earlier, you have to iterate. So in the beginning, failure is just as important as success because once you identify what doesn't work, it allows you to identify what will work. But the biggest thing is being able to implement and iterate quickly. Don't take a month to build the perfect web page. Make a change, get some statistically significant data, see if it improved things the way you wanted it to, and then make the next change. So fast failure, but fast iteration and fast implementation are what, in my opinion, really distinguishes the good entrepreneurs.
I couldn't agree more. Having a decisive take on what you're doing next, it's so important. You're so right, too. There's analysis paralysis and then shiny object syndrome, two ends of the spectrum. I know a lot of people like that. I'm definitely more so a shiny object type of person, you know. I'm curious to hear what do you think is the fix for that? If someone listening is like, "Oh, I come up with a lot of ideas and then I don't see them through because there's so many."
To me, the people with shiny object syndrome need a good business partner who's an implementer. Because if they're on their own and they're always looking for the next great idea, they will never implement anything. So in many cases, it's really the kiss of death and they probably shouldn't be an entrepreneur. They might be better off working for somebody. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. There's something to be said about having a good job and knowing money's being deposited into your bank account every week or 2 weeks, whatever it is, and having that secured. Because, people look at somebody like Mr. Beast or the Kardashians and think that their journey is a straight line from down here all the way up here. But it's not. It's a roller coaster and there's lots of ups and downs. So what I've learned in 40 plus years of doing this is when things are really good, don't get too excited and leave money in the business. Don't, just because you had a good year or a good quarter doesn't mean you can start going out and buying fancy cars and living that laptop lifestyle. You have to leave money in your business for when things are not going to be as good. And when things are bad, know that quite often it's just a cyclical thing and things will probably get better. So don't get too down when things are bad. It's really about sort of leveling out the roller coaster rather than having the massive emotional swings, because that can be absolutely exhausting.
You mentioned bringing a partner. That is actually really interesting because I think of so many power partners, business partners, who are just completely different personalities. One is very visionary, let's go, 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 might have a little bit of shiny object. And then the other is very operations oriented, let's go. I know that in my business, Linda she's our director of marketing operations. She has just been my absolute rock in building this. If you don't have that other side of the coin, then all your ideas will fall flat. It'll be hard to get traction. And then on the other side of the spectrum, analysis paralysis. What would you say is the fix for analysis paralysis?
Honestly, I'm not sure that there is a fix because they get so focused on looking for something that's magically going to reveal itself from an Excel sheet or a QuickBooks or whatever it happens to be. And quite often there's nothing magical there. It's just that they're stuck and don't know what to do, so they do nothing. And those are businesses that generally fail pretty quickly because they never implement anything. Sometimes the shiny object syndrome people implement too much. The analysis paralysis people implement nothing because they can never make a decision. Both of them can be fatal for a business. So generally in good partnerships, or it can even be hiring a good COO who manages the day-to-day and the operations and the implementation, a visionary generally is not a good implementer. So having somebody who can actually implement and manage the process is huge. I'll give you an example. A good friend of mine, when he was 18 years old in Boise, Idaho, founded a supplement business that became bodybuilding.com, which became the world's largest online retailer of nutritional supplements. He was an absolute visionary. At 18 years old, he knew nothing about business, finished high school, and that was it. But he had a vision, and luckily he had some great people around him who could help implement, and they grew that business from his garage to a $500 million a year business that had a website that got around 40 million unique visitors a month. So they were one of the 100 busiest websites in the world. Like, how does that happen? You need the vision, but you need the team behind you to implement the vision.
Amen.
And sometimes the implementers have to go to the visionary and say, that's a great idea, but we're only going to implement 50% of it because the other 50% is too far out there. So you implement stuff in stage and see if it works. But it's all about having that balance between vision and actual execution.
Right. I think that's so important, is having the people around you that will, as a leader of the organization, having people around you that will say no to you if they think something's a bad idea or will go against the grain. I think a lot of time, you might get a team that just, they say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, let's do it. But I think the ones that really rise in the ranks are the ones that will say no and push back.
Or at least exactly push back and make the visionary flesh out the idea more and explain in detail how they see it all playing out. Because when you break it down into steps, then it's very easy to identify what's going to break. So, one of the things that I ask every single consulting client that I work with is, if I could help you double your business overnight, what's going to break? Because every business has something in it that will break if business doubles. Do you have enough staff? Do you have SOPs? Do you have the infrastructure to support the business doubling? And quite often, the business owner has no idea what's going to break. And when you sort of take a step back and look at it, quite often it's very easy to identify what will break. But the problem that most business owners have is that we're looking at everything from 6 inches in front of our nose. And sometimes you need somebody to come in and look from a much greater distance and see the whole picture rather than that one little spot that you're focused on because you're too close to it.
Wow. I think there's so much power to that. You zoom out, you see the big picture.
Exactly. But sometimes you need a fresh set of eyes because stuff that we look at so closely becomes very obvious to somebody new who walks in and says, but why is this like this? Or why are you doing it this way? And very quickly you gain some clarity.
That is so important. I think a lot of the people listening are at the point where they're ready to scale, they're ready to grow, they're ready to really level up. And I think having that honest conversation of, okay, if I did scale, what would break? Are all the pieces in place?
And there's no business that has everything in place.
That's right.
You're selling a physical product and you're used to selling 1,000 units a month. and all of a sudden business takes off and you need 10,000 units a month? Do you have the proper supply chain in place that can get you up to 10,000 units a month quickly without you going out of stock? Because what people don't realize is if you're selling a product and the customer is used to buying it from you every month, if they go to your website and see that you're on back order, or they go to Amazon and they try to order your product, but you're sold out, they're going to buy your competitor's product, and then you've lost the customer and you might never get them back. So being able to plan and be sure that you have the infrastructure to manage growth quickly and efficiently is massive.
In closing thoughts, I want to dig into that a little bit more too and see what are the final words that you'd leave our listeners as they go on this venture to grow their businesses.
The biggest thing is I think people have to realize that it's absolutely a marathon and not a sprint. You can't go from $0 to $100 million a year overnight. There's a lot of steps. You need to get to your first $10,000 month, and then a $25,000 month, and then a $50,000 month. And then once you hit 100,000, sure, $1 million is the goal, but there are a lot of steps between 100,000 and $1 million. And once you get to $1 million, there's even more steps between $1 million and 5 million or 10 million. So it's all about being realistic and managing your expectations and knowing that it's a long haul, not something that's going to happen overnight.
I love that. James, I really appreciate you joining us. I think this was so valuable for not only our listeners, but for me as well. So thank you so much for taking the time and joining us.
Paresa, thank you so much for having me. And I love doing the whole thing, and hopefully we can do it again someday.
Absolutely. Remember this as you go about your day today. The ideas that are on your heart for a reason. Do not ignore them. Tune into them. Tap in, lean in, understand them, and pursue them. If not you, then who? If this episode was helpful to you in any way, please like, share, comment, subscribe. It does wonders for our efforts, and it helps us to continue our mission of inspiring entrepreneurs and giving them the resources and the perspective we all need to take it to the next level. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Paresa Noble, and we'll catch you next time.